This is Storybook ASMR, and it's me, Julia. And welcome to my ASMR book club. Today we will be talking about two books. These are two books from this series that is well known as ACOTAR. So we're going to talk about the first book, which is A Court of Thorns and Roses, and the second book, A Court of Mist and Fury. In the next session, we're going to talk about the third book of the series. Before I wanted to talk about another book, but because I started this series and I enjoy it, so I've decided to finish reading it, and while I'm doing this, I will be talking about it. So if you read this series, or if you are reading it at the moment, or you haven't read it but you just want to know something about it, join my ASMR book club. I'll be very, very grateful. And also let me say that they're gonna be spoilers, of course, because I will be answering book club questions about the first and the second book. So if you haven't read it yet, read it first. Let's start with the author again. So Sarah Maas, Sarah J Maas, she's an American writer. She is quite well known at the moment. She's trending, I would say. She's one of the most famous fantasy romance writers. She's quite young. I think she's about 38 years old, and she has 3 well-known series. First is A Throne of Glass, then ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and Crescent City. I've read A Throne of Glass series as well, but it was a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, and I enjoyed it. I remember I read the whole series, but I can't say that it was my favorite. I just enjoyed it. And as for ACOTAR, I remember that I started reading this book, the first book, several times, and I don't know why, but I don't know. It wasn't for me, I guess, and I couldn't understand that obsession that especially girls have over this book. And I know that there are a lot of fans of this series, and I couldn't get it. I didn't understand why, because it felt like a little bit boring in the beginning. But this time I've decided to go with it and to read it till the end. Also because I heard that the second book was better than the first one, so I've decided to give it a shot again. And this time I liked it quite a lot. I still didn't like the first book as much, but I think the second book was really, really good. Okay. And also, before I start with the questions, I have a jigsaw puzzle with me again, which I want to put together while talking about those books. So this is my daughter's puzzle again. It has unicorns on it. I guess that would be more suitable for talking about Zodiac Academy. If you read this book, if you know, you know. But it's a nice big puzzle with big pieces. So I think I'll start doing this one. Also, let me read the annotations for these two books. Alright, so A Court of Thorns and Roses. When 19-year-old huntress Feyre kills a wolf in the woods, a beast-like creature arrives to demand retribution for it. Dragged to a treacherous magical land she only knows about from legends, Feyre discovers that her captor is not an animal, but Tamlin, one of the lethal immortal fairies who once ruled the world. As she dwells on his estate, her feelings for Tamlin transform from icy hostility into fiery passion that burns through every lie and warning she's been told about the beautiful, dangerous world of the Fae. But an ancient, wicked shadow over the fairy lands is growing, and Feyre must find a way to stop it or doom Tamlin and his world forever. Okay, so this is the first book, and the second book, A Court of Mist and Fury. Okay, and here will be spoilers, so spoilers start from this point then. Feyre survived Amarantha's clutches to return to the Spring Court, but at a steep cost. Though she now has the powers of the High Fae, her heart remains human, and it can't forget the terrible deeds she performed to save Tamlin's people. Nor has Feyre forgotten her bargain with Rhysand, High Lord of the feared Night Court. As Feyre navigates its dark web of politics, passion, and dazzling power, a greater evil looms, and she might be key to stopping it. But only if she can harness her heroine gifts, heal her fractured soul, and decide how she wishes to shape her future, in the future of a world cleaved in two. So, here we are. Alright, so let me start the puzzle then. Let's start talking about it. So, I think I would give the first book 3.5 stars, maybe 4. Okay, let it be 4. Look at those puzzles here. And the second book will get 5 stars from me. It was much, much better than the first one. And overall, I think the first book is quite interesting, but it has a very slow beginning. It's a slow burn kind of book. So if you didn't like it from the beginning, I don't know, it's just hard to read further. If you're one of those people who stop reading books when you feel like you don't like it, you will not, I think, read it further, because at the beginning it's quite, I don't know, you can see that it's based on the story of Beauty and the Beast, and that's why you kind of feel like you know what happens next. And also, I remember I was quite annoyed by Feyre's wish to come back, even though because she thought that she needs to provide for her family and save them, even though he promised that they will be safe. And she couldn't kind of accept that she needs to stay there. I understand why, it's totally normal, but it felt a little bit like, calm down, girl. And I couldn't give her reasons, I guess. But later it gets better, and it was fine, and I think the second part of the book is much better. So let's start with the questions. What was your favorite part of the book and least favorite? I think I said already about the first book, as I said, the beginning of it I didn't really like. And the second part was the ending. I like the ending, like the whole part of the book Under the Mountain. I think it was very, very interesting. As for the second book, oh my, I just liked and enjoyed the second book so much that it's hard even for me to tell which part of it I enjoyed the least. I think all parts of it, even the parts where I was kind of sad and I didn't want things to happen, I still think that these are the best part, like the good parts as well, because they were so emotional. And even though I didn't like what was happening, I liked that it was so emotional and that it gave me that I was so compassionate to the characters and to the story. I think that's a good sign. Who is the most relatable character? Who's the favorite character? Who's the least favorite character? Alright. I think Feyre, well, not in the beginning, as I said, I didn't like her in the beginning. But then you kind of get her motives and her reasons and her personality, and because you know her background story, kind of you understand why she's like that. Maybe she's not the most relatable, like I can say that she reminds me of myself. I think she has a different personality, and she's also such a badass. And I'm not. But I also, if we're talking about the first book, I also like Lucienne. And and actually liked Tamlin as well. And if we're talking about the character's arc, I think Tamlin's arc was very interesting. Yes, of course, he was not like later in the second book. He did some bad things to Feyre, and he was not a nice person, not a nice Fae. But if we're talking about it as a character, I think that was really interesting that he changed, that his character developed this way. And because at first I don't think that I found him boring, because I heard that people say that he was quite boring as a love interest. No, I think I felt it. He was a nice, strong blondie, and she fell for him. But those things that they went through, Feyre and Tamlin and other characters under the mountain, they showed his true himself, his true personality, his true values and views, and I remember that, sometimes a character makes mistakes and does wrong things, but then it shows that he's kind of he feels that it's wrong, and it makes him sad, and he's feeling guilty for it. And here, yes, we can see that Tamlin is feeling guilty, but I still didn't have any pity for him. I was kind of on Feyre's side when she couldn't accept what he's done in the second book, I mean. And I was like, yeah, girl, I agree. That was really bad what he's done, and you never do this to a person. I don't know. All the nice feelings that I had to him disappeared very quickly, which I think is good from the writing point of view. Also, who else? Amren. If we're talking about the second book, I liked her character. I think she is the most relatable to me. Or maybe it's not like I have the same personality as Amren has, because it's hard to tell what she is, or I just like her a lot. I like her character. And of course, Recent. We're gonna talk about him more. He's my kind of guy, the guy that I would fall for. I love smart guys. He's a dream came true. And I can understand why a lot of girls kind of fell for him. He's also hot. Which scene has stuck with you the most? Okay, I'm really slow with my puzzle. Okay, if we're talking about the first book, I think the first scene that I liked was the Kalamai holiday celebration scene. Was it Kalamai? I don't remember the name. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. When they had this, first sparks, when he had to find a woman to sleep with, and they told her to hide. But then when the night was almost over, he found her and he beat her in the neck. That was really hot. That's when I thought that Tamlin is not that boring after all. And also again, Under the Mountain, I liked. Yeah, there were so many things. I think I just liked the whole part of it. It was very, very interesting to read. I read it very fast. Okay, I need to find Unicorn's Tale that I can't find. Oh my god, I found it. Finally. Okay, if we're talking about the second book, well, the wedding, of course, when recent appeared, hello Farah darling, this kind of stuff. Also Velaris, when she was walking around Velaris, and of course those relationships, like the scene where they were stuck in that inn, in the small room, in one bed. You know what I mean. I think I enjoyed this scene even more than chapter 55, where they actually had sex in those paints. Also, I think I enjoyed, but it made me emotional when Velaris was attacked. I remember I stopped reading several times. I started reading and I saw that I see that it's happening. I was like, no. I was so sad, and I just, I don't want to read. I don't want to know what's gonna happen. I just fell in love with this city. And also, what else? Oh, I really liked the part of the book where they went to the summer court to meet Tarquin and to get the book, and also the part where they were getting the book. That was quite interesting, when she and Amarin went to get it. And yeah, and the ending about her sisters. What surprised you most about the book? Oh yeah, here. So in the first book, I think what surprised me most is that she actually killed those fairies in the beginning, in the end, when she needed to kill three innocent fairies. And I didn't expect her to kill them, those two. I was like, no, she's not gonna do it. And then she did that, and I was like, what? Yeah, I definitely didn't expect that. And in the second book, the Valaris attack, I didn't expect that. And I didn't expect that she would. And I remember I also almost crying when she asked the king of Highburn to break the bond, like the mating bond between her and Rhysand. And I also remember I was so sad about it. I was like, no. I was almost crying. And here I also would say that I was surprised that this book made me so emotional, because I usually, I am quite emotional and I cry when I watch movies or when I read books, but usually that happens when it's a very sad scene or someone, especially when someone dies, like someone that I liked. But here I remember I cried because of that. And I also remember that I cried when Rhysand was telling his story, like how he fell in love with her and how he realized that she was his mate. And like it was so touching. I don't know. I would never expect myself to cry over this kind of scene. And I remember I was crying and it was so unusual for me. If you could ask the author anything, what would it be? I think I would ask her who's her favorite character, male and female. Who was the most interesting character to write, to create? How did those books impact you? It's actually quite rare, I think, for me to get a very big impact from the book. I think only that I realized one more time how much I enjoy reading. I'm such a book lover. I have been reading books as long as I remember myself. I was always reading, and I think reading is the best thing that can be that there is for developing your imagination, for getting emotions that you will never get in real life, or you will get them, but like you don't want some emotions to happen to you very often. Like, of course, we want a happy, harmonious life. And here when you read books and you go on these adventures and you experience those things through characters, I just love that. Yes, there's definitely a quote, and I think it's quite famous quote, because I saw that it's used often in books, merchandise, like you can buy like a mug with this phrase on it on Etsy, or like some jewelry or bookmark. To the stars who listen and the dreams that are answered. Yeah, that's a good quote. It's it's kind of something that very me. I believe in this kind of stuff, and I like to dream of something more that we have in real life. I think that's why me and people like me would like to read, because we can live in those worlds. Okay. What did you like the least about the book? Yeah, I think I already answered that question. As for the first book, as I said, I didn't like the beginning, like it was quite slow. And about the second, there is nothing. It's a really good book. How did you feel about the ending? As for the first book, I didn't believe that she's actually gonna die, because there are more books in the series, so, and she's a main character, she can die. I knew that there's gonna be some kind of something will happen, that she will leave, and that she got those powers from other lords. Yeah, it was good. And they killed Amaranta, even though I thought that Amaranta will be there for some other books. But because there is King of Highburn, like the greatest evil, I don't know, maybe there's more antagonists in the next books. But yeah, I didn't expect that she will be killed so soon. As for the second book, I liked the whole situation about her sisters, that they became fairies as well, high fays. And as I said, I was really upset when she asked to break this bond. I was actually crying a bit, and I was so relieved when I found out that you can't actually break this bond. I was so much relieved, because I was like, oh no, there's gonna be a lot of suffering from both sides. I finished the puzzle. So yeah, I think it was even better, I think. Okay, and the last question is the love story. So let's talk about it a little bit. Okay, so the love story between Feyre and Tamlin, I think it was good, and as I said, I enjoyed the fact that he was not the main love interest, that you kind of believe at first that he will be, because it usually is like that the main love interest appears in the first book and then something happens to them, to those characters later. But even though Rhysand appeared in the first book, and even though it was told that he was so handsome, and you still don't know for a fact, only maybe later, by the end of the book, that he's going to be her main love interest. So I liked how this story happened, and I think it's interesting also because that is very relatable to, I think, it can be very relatable to some people, this kind of story, because she was isolated and she always took care of everyone except for herself. And then when she met this guy who was so handsome and pretty and strong, and who kind of was taking care of her, and of course she fell not for him, but for the feeling of safety and happiness, and for the fact she doesn't need to kind of worry that much about many things as she used to. So yeah, I think it also it was quite relatable to me, because I had the same kind of story, because she was treated differently and then she fell for it. So I think she didn't fall for him exactly. And then when she went through a lot, when her personality came to the surface, when she appeared to be very, very strong person, a very kind person, she meets her true equal, and I think this is beautiful. Also about the story between Feyre and Rhysand, I loved that she kind of didn't throw herself into him, like she didn't fall for him so fast, that it was quite slow and she needed time, and that he was not pushing, and it was happening slowly. So here I enjoyed that it was quite slow, and that it was happening like it would be in real life, even though in terms of time it was quite fast, as she was saying. It was like 2 months or something, but a lot of things were happening during that time, and like they went through quite a lot again. And I love the fact that you kind of fall in love with her. Like, he opens up his good sides, the good sides of him. Not only the fact that he's like hot and whatever, but I mean the sides that you fall in love with. Yeah, that he's so complicated. Yeah, I really enjoyed that love story. I think that's why I loved the second book more, and there were more scenes that more parts of it that I liked, more events, interesting events. Because in the first book she was like staying there, and then yeah, something was happening, but it was not that impressive, I would say. And in the second book you have this summer court trip and the love story, and like there is so much happening there, and it's so interesting to read. So yeah, that's why I think I loved the second book. So I started the third one, A Court of Winds and Ruin, and I'm going to talk about it next week. I think I wanted to talk about the next 2 books, but I'm not sure if I will have time to read them all. Both of them. Not all of them, both of them. So I'll finish the third one and we're gonna talk about it, and then maybe next I'll do the video about the 4th and the 5th book, and then we'll move on to the next books that I was planning to talk about. They are also fantasy books. We're gonna talk about some books by Brandon Sanderson. He's my favorite fantasy writer so far. And also I have some other books planned. I want to read some books that are trending now as well, fantasy books, and to talk about them and to see if I like them as much as I liked ACOTAR series, because I was very skeptical about it before. So yeah, I hope we're gonna have more conversation about books. So if you enjoyed the video, join my book club, and see you next week.